All right, I wanted to share a quick video training on how to manipulate the interior elevation tags. I noticed that on several projects they were appearing with a lot of text, which is unnecessary. Typically, these tags shouldn't appear with a big label. So if I go into the View tab here and I go to Elevations and I use this first item here, I can drop an elevation tag here, and obviously as I hover toward each wall, the arrowhead points to the wall that's being elevated. So if I favor the bottom of the screen here and click, it places the elevation tag. If you need to elevate all four walls, you simply turn on the square by clicking on it once. Then you simply check the boxes, and then it creates four elevation tags. Now, if I take a look at this, though, these are considered building elevations, typically exterior elevations. Revit does have an interior elevation tag that's slightly different. And although they do act the same way, if I were to click on one of these arrowheads here and double click, it'll launch an interior elevation here. Now, it might give you some additional information you don't need. For example, here you can simply hide this floor tag and hide this column bubble. Sorry, right click, hide it as an element, which looks fine. You might need to crop it slightly in order to hide the floor because Revit doesn't do a good job of doing this. But here, it crops it to the edge of the walls and ceiling, but here, unfortunately, it goes below the floor. So sometimes you might need to just grab that and slightly move it up a hair so it just grabs just the edge of the floor there. And if I use my line weights here and I change the scale to something more appropriate, maybe quarter inch, you'll see here, some line weights do begin to appear here slightly. This crop box can also be hidden here. So there's your elevation. Now if I go back to the floor plan, if I decide to use an interior elevation tag, I can click on this object here and here change it from a building elevation to an interior elevation tag. And that becomes this. But this looks rather busy. These are the names of the elevations that were created by virtue of clicking on this object here, this family, and choosing these checkboxes. That automatically makes, if you look here, under elevations, interior elevation, you see here, it makes, by default, these preliminary names until you right-click and rename them. Let's get rid of these names here, because obviously it makes the drawing look rather busy and looks rather odd. So if you click on the arrowhead there, you'll see here's the family. And if I edit that type, here it gives me access to the graphics that produces that symbol. And this one here says elevation tag, and it's called a 1/2 inch circle. If I choose these little dots here, this elevation marker, this arrowhead here, family, is called the elevation mark body circle filled arrow with view name. Maybe perhaps we can look in there and not include the view name. So here you'll notice that you have other options. You can use detail number, or detail number and view name, or a filled arrow, or a filled arrow and the view name. Obviously, we want to avoid anything that has anything to do with the view name. So if I simply chose here circle filled arrow and I hit OK and apply, then that goes away. All you're left with is the space here left for a number. If I create a sheet, right click, new sheet, let's see, I drop a new sheet in here temporarily, and I grab one of my elevations and drop it onto the sheet, this becomes drawing number 1 on that sheet. Therefore, when I return to the floor plan here, number 1 appears here and the sheet number appears there because currently the new sheet I created here happens to have ZA for zoom all, happens to have that sheet number here. And that's typically it. Pretty fast, pretty easy to create these elevation tags and manipulate them to your liking. Try to avoid having the full view name on these tags because obviously they look terrible. Okay, that's it for now.